The Dark Horrors. Natalie Wood faced with Kirk Douglas exposed. Born Natalia Nikolaevna Zakharenko on July 20, 1938. In San Francisco, California, Natalie Wood was destined, some would say, for a life beyond the ordinary. Her parents, Russian immigrants, navigated the challenges of building a new life in America. But it was her mother, Maria, a woman driven by ambition and a fierce determination, who saw early on the potential shimmering in her daughter's expressive eyes. Maria believed Natalia possessed a spark, a magnetic quality that belonged on the silver screen. And from a very young age, Maria began to nurture, or perhaps to push, that potential. While other children played, young Natalia was being guided, groomed, introduced to screen tests and casting calls. Her childhood was not entirely her own. It was, in many ways, a carefully orchestrated prelude to a career Maria envisioned. This early immersion meant Natalie was, from the start, exposed to the complex, often unforgiving world of Hollywood, a world that promised fame and fortune, but also held hidden dangers for a vulnerable young girl being steered by her mother's relentless ambition. This duality, the innocent child versus the demanding industry, would become a recurring theme, shaping the very core of who Natalie Wood would become. Natalie's journey into the heart of the film industry began almost as soon as she could walk and talk. Small roles in uncredited appearances quickly led to more significant parts. Her natural charm and photogenic quality were undeniable. By the age of 8, she landed a role that would solidify her status as a prominent child actress, Susan Walker in the holiday classic Miracle on 34th Street. Her performance was widely praised, launching her into a new stratosphere of recognition. She wasn't just a cute kid, she was a talented performer. For the next few years, Natalie continued to work steadily, navigating the tricky transition from child star to young adult actress. This period is notoriously difficult in Hollywood. Many child actors fade away or struggle to find their footing in adult roles. Natalie faced her own challenges. She had to shed the image of the adorable little girl and prove she had the depth and range for more complex characters. She took on various roles, honing her craft, working tirelessly under the continued guidance of her mother and the watchful eyes of the studios. It was a period of growth, often awkward and demanding, as she sought to define herself not just as a former child star, but as a serious actress capable of captivating audiences as a young woman. This persistent drive, coupled with her innate talent, would soon pay off in spectacular fashion. The turning point arrived in 1955, starring alongside the magnetic and equally complex James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. A 17-year-old Natalie Wood delivered a performance that resonated deeply with a generation. Her portrayal of Judy earned her an Academy Award nomination and announced her arrival as a formidable dramatic actress. She was no longer just a former child star. She was a bona fide leading lady. This breakthrough was followed by a string of iconic roles that cemented her status among Hollywood's elite. Splendor in the Grass, 1961, for which she received her second Oscar nomination, showcased her incredible ability to convey vulnerability and raw emotion. The same year, she starred as Maria in the cinematic phenomenon West Side Story, a role that made her an international superstar and a cultural touchstone. Other memorable films followed, including Gypsy, Love with the Proper Stranger, earning her a third Oscar nomination, and Inside Daisy Clover. Natalie Wood became synonymous with a certain type of beauty and sensitivity on screen. She possessed a unique blend of fragility and strength, captivating audiences and working with the era's most celebrated directors and actors. She was part of a new wave of talent that defined the late 50s and 60s. She worked with legends like Elia Kazan, Robert Wise, Warren Beatty, and of course, she would appear in the monumental Western epic The Searchers, 1956, a film directed by the legendary John Ford. While not the central figure in that story, her presence in such a landmark film further solidified her rising star status. And it was around this same time within the orbit of these powerful figures and this demanding industry, that her path would cross decisively, and tragically, with another towering figure of Hollywood, Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas, a name evoking toughness, charisma, and an almost mythic status in Hollywood history, known for his intense performances in classics like Spartacus, Lust for Life, and Paths of Glory. Douglas was not just an actor, he was a force of nature, a producer, a man who commanded respect and wielded considerable power within the studio system. His presence in the same industry, at the same time as the ascending Natalie Wood, set the stage for a connection that would remain hidden for decades, its true nature a dark secret. Off-screen, Natalie Wood's life was as captivating and at times as tumultuous as her on-screen roles. Her romantic life was closely followed by the press, her marriages and relationships becoming public sagas. Most notably, her 2 marriages to actor Robert Wagner were the stuff of Hollywood legend, a whirlwind romance, a painful divorce, and a later reconciliation that seemed to promise a mature, lasting love. She dated other prominent figures, including Elvis Presley and Warren Beatty, living a life that appeared, from the outside, to be the epitome of Hollywood glamour and success. She was a fixture at parties, premieres, and on magazine covers, seemingly living the dream she had been groomed for since childhood. She built a family, becoming a mother, attempting to balance the demands of her career with a desire for personal happiness and stability. But even amidst the public adoration and the picture-perfect appearances, there were hints of underlying fragility. Reports from friends and colleagues often described her as sensitive, sometimes insecure, navigating the pressures of fame and the complexities of her personal relationships. The facade of perfection, as it often is in Hollywood, likely masked deeper anxieties and vulnerabilities. Her early life, shaped by a driven mother and a relentless industry, had perhaps not equipped her with the emotional armor needed to navigate every challenge. And while her marriages and public relationships garnered headlines, it was a connection outside the conventional spotlight, a secret interaction with a man of immense power that would leave the most indelible, most painful mark on her soul, a scar so deep it fueled a lifelong, hidden resentment. That man, as we revealed, was Kirk Douglas. And the truth behind Natalie Wood's deep-seated hatred for him is a story buried for decades, a chilling revelation about the price of silence and the darkness that could lurk beneath Hollywood's glittering surface. The root of Natalie Wood's profound animosity towards Kirk Douglas lies in a horrifying event that allegedly took place in 1956. Natalie was just 17 years old, on the cusp of true superstardom, radiating youth and vulnerability in an industry dominated by powerful men. Kirk Douglas, by contrast, was already a titan, a name synonymous with strength and control. The shocking details of this alleged encounter remained buried for over 6 decades, known only to a terrifyingly small circle of people bound by fear and a code of silence. The truth finally emerged through the heartbreaking testimony of the person closest to Natalie, her younger sister, Lana Wood. In her 2021 memoir, Little Sister, Lana made the direct, painful accusation her sister, Natalie, was allegedly assaulted by Kirk Douglas. According to Lana's account, the incident occurred during a meeting arranged by their mother, Maria. It wasn't on the set of The Searchers, though they were both figures in Hollywood at that time. It was reportedly a private meeting with Kirk Douglas at the infamous Chateau Marmont Hotel, a place known for its discreet bungalows where stars often conducted private business or sought refuge away from prying eyes. Maria, ever the ambitious stage mother, had arranged for Natalie to meet with Douglas, presumably about a potential role or a professional opportunity. Natalie, only 17 at the time, went to the meeting. Lana describes waiting for her sister to return home that night. Hours passed. When Natalie finally did return, it was late, long past when she was expected. Lana recalled her sister's appearance, disheveled, distraught, visibly upset. Her entire demeanor was different. The radiant energy was gone, replaced by a chilling fear and profound sadness. Lana, concerned and questioning, pressed Natalie about what happened. And in that moment, in the privacy of their shared space, Natalie confided in her younger sister, sharing the horrifying details of the alleged encounter. What she described was a traumatic violation, an act of aggression and betrayal perpetrated by a man she had been led to believe was a respected colleague, a potential benefactor in her career. The man who allegedly attacked her was Kirk Douglas. According to Lana, Natalie was in shock, weeping, struggling to process the magnitude of what had occurred. It was a brutal awakening to the dark realities that could exist beneath Hollywood's glittering facade. A stark, violent reminder of the power imbalance inherent in the industry, where young, aspiring women were sometimes seen not as colleagues, but as commodities, vulnerable to the whims of powerful men. But the trauma didn't end with the alleged attack itself. The immediate aftermath brought another layer of pain and enforced silence. When their mother, Maria, learned what allegedly happened, her reaction, as described by Lana, was not one of immediate comfort or seeking justice. Instead, fueled by her relentless ambition for Natalie's career, Maria's primary concern was containing the scandal. She reportedly told her daughters, emphatically, that this event was never to be spoken of again. It was a secret that had to be buried, deep within the confines of their family, for fear that any public accusation, any whiff of scandal, would utterly destroy Natalie's blossoming career. Imagine the burden placed upon a 17-year-old girl, already reeling from a terrifying ordeal. Not only was she allegedly victimized, but she was also instructed by her own mother to suppress her pain, to bury the truth, to pretend it never happened. The alleged attack itself was a trauma, but the subsequent silence, the enforced secrecy, turned that wound into a festering scar that would remain with Natalie for the rest of her life. This was the price demanded by the Hollywood system, sometimes protecting the image. The career meant sacrificing the truth and the emotional well-being of the individual. This moment, this alleged encounter at the Chateau Marmont, became the dark nexus of Natalie's feelings towards Kirk Douglas. It wasn't a professional disagreement or a clash of personalities. It was, if Lana Wood's account is true, the source of a profound, deep-seated trauma. The utter hatred was not a casual dislike. It was the emotional fallout from an alleged act of violation, compounded by the subsequent pressure to remain silent. For decades, Natalie Wood carried this secret. How did it manifest? While she never publicly spoke of it, those close to her might have sensed an invisible wall, a certain wariness, particularly in interactions with powerful figures in the industry. Did she ever have to work with Kirk Douglas again? Records don't show them sharing the screen after The Searchers, which was filmed around the time of the alleged incident. If their paths crossed at industry events, imagine the inner turmoil she must have faced, smiling, posing, pretending normalcy, all while carrying the weight of that night. The man who allegedly caused her such pain was celebrated as a legend, while her own suffering remained hidden, a ghost she had to live with every day. The decision by Lana Wood to finally reveal this alleged truth in her memoir was a momentous one, fraught with controversy. She explained that she had previously alluded to an assault by a major star in earlier writings, but chose not to name the person while Natalie was alive, or even immediately after her death. Why name him now, decades later, especially after Kirk Douglas's death in 2020 at the age of 103? Lana stated it was about honoring her sister's truth, about no longer carrying the burden of the secret, and perhaps about shedding light on the pervasive issues of abuse and power dynamics in Hollywood, issues that have gained more public awareness in recent years. Lana's revelation sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the public. Kirk Douglas was a revered figure, a man who lived to be over 100, often portrayed as a symbol of resilience and old Hollywood grit. The idea that he could be the perpetrator of such a horrifying act against a young, Vulnerable Natalie Wood was deeply unsettling for many. The reaction from Kirk Douglas's family and estate was swift. They denied the allegations or offered statements that did not directly address them, often emphasizing his humanitarian work and long, respected career. They defended his legacy, implicitly or explicitly pushing back against Lana's claims. And so, the public is left to grapple with two conflicting narratives. On one hand, the detailed, albeit delayed, account from Natalie Wood's own sister, describing Natalie's state and confession. On the other, the staunch denial from the representatives of a long-deceased legend. But within the context of Natalie Wood's life, Lana's account provides a chillingly plausible explanation for the utter hatred she described her sister feeling towards Kirk Douglas. It wasn't some minor slight. It was a profound violation that left a lasting scar. This alleged trauma adds a crucial, dark layer to our understanding of Natalie. It helps explain a potential source of underlying pain that she carried, a secret that was a heavy weight on her shoulders throughout her public life. The code of silence enforced by her mother, driven by the cutthroat realities of the studio system, meant that Natalie was never given the opportunity to process the trauma openly, to seek justice, or even just to acknowledge it publicly. She had to suppress it, compartmentalize it, and live with it in solitude. This enforced silence could easily breed not just pain, but also resentment and, yes, hatred towards the person who allegedly caused the harm, especially when that person continued to thrive and be celebrated while she carried her secret wound. What does it mean for a young woman, just stepping into her power, to have such a devastating experience? How does carrying a secret of that magnitude for decades affect one's relationships, one's trust in others, one's view of oneself? It's not a leap to suggest that this alleged trauma could have contributed to some of the complexities and vulnerabilities that were observed in Natalie's adult life. The pressure to maintain a perfect public image while harboring such a dark secret would be immense. Furthermore, the story sheds light on the culture of Hollywood in the 1950s and beyond. It underscores the power dynamic, the unchecked authority sometimes wielded by male stars and executives, and the vulnerability of young actresses who feared speaking out could cost them everything. Maria's reaction, while perhaps misguided from a human perspective, was a chillingly pragmatic response to the perceived realities of the industry at the time. Scandals could ruin careers instantly. The fear of being blacklisted, of losing everything she had worked so hard for, likely overshadowed any immediate concern for justice or emotional healing. This alleged event, and the subsequent decades of silence, are central to understanding the depth of the utter hatred described by Lana Wood. It wasn't a fleeting emotion. It was the lasting legacy of an alleged traumatic violation, a secret buried under layers of glamour and public success. It adds a tragic, disturbing dimension to the life of Natalie Wood, suggesting that even at the height of her fame, she was grappling with the hidden consequences of a dark encounter with one of the industry's most powerful figures. The revelation, however late, finally provides a painful, but perhaps necessary, answer to the question of why Natalie Wood harbored such deep negative feelings towards Kirk Douglas. It reveals a hidden chapter in her life, a chapter marked by alleged violation, enforced silence, and enduring pain, all tied to a man who remained, for decades, seemingly untouchable. The reason why wasn't just a reason, it was a trauma that shaped her life in ways the public could never have guessed. As the decades passed, Natalie Wood continued to navigate the currents of Hollywood. She remained a working actress, taking on diverse roles, but the feverish intensity of her earlier superstardom eventually subsided. Her personal life continued to be a mix of joy and challenge. She remarried Robert Wagner in 1972, a move that seemed to bring a sense of closure and stability to their storied romance. Together, they built a family, and Natalie seemed to be finding a degree of peace away from the most intense glare of the spotlight. Yet, beneath the surface, one can speculate that the weight of past experiences, the pressures of her unique life, and perhaps the burden of her hidden secrets, continued to take their toll. While she maintained her beauty and professional grace, the vulnerabilities noted by those close to her likely remained. The final chapter of Natalie Wood's life arrived with shocking suddenness, adding yet another layer of mystery and tragedy to her story. On the weekend of November 29, 1981, Natalie was on the family's yacht, the Splendor, off the coast of Santa Catalina Island. Aboard with her were her husband, Robert Wagner, and her current co-star, Christopher Walken. What exactly happened that night remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. Reports indicate there was drinking, and possibly arguments, leading up to the disappearance of Natalie from the yacht. Her body was found the next morning, floating in the water. The initial ruling was accidental drowning. However, over the years, questions persisted, discrepancies in testimony, unexplained bruises, and the general atmosphere of confusion surrounding the events of that night fueled speculation and suspicion. In 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department controversially reopened the case, citing new information. The coroner's report was amended in 2012, changing the cause of death from accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors, leaving the official explanation frustratingly ambiguous. To this day, the circumstances of Natalie Wood's death are debated, a subject of books, documentaries, and ongoing public fascination. Was it truly a tragic accident? Or was there something more sinister involved? The uncertainty surrounding her death tragically mirrors the hidden aspects of her life, leaving her story forever tinged with mystery and sorrow. Her premature passing at the age of 43 robbed the world of a talented actress and left behind a legacy intertwined with both the glamour and the darkness of the industry she inhabited. Natalie Wood remains one of cinema's most cherished figures. Her performance is etched into the history of film. Her life, from child star to icon, was a dazzling spectacle, a testament to her talent and resilience. But as the years pass, the layers of her story are peeled back, revealing complexities and pain hidden beneath the surface. The revelation from her sister, Lana Wood, regarding the alleged traumatic encounter with Kirk Douglas, adds a crucial, heartbreaking piece to the puzzle of who Natalie Wood was. It explains a source of deep, enduring pain and the reason behind a hidden hatred that she carried in silence. Her story serves as a powerful, tragic reminder of the hidden cost of fame, the vulnerability faced by those in the spotlight, and the long-lasting shadows cast by secrets buried within the heart of Hollywood. Natalie Wood's legacy is not just one of glamour and talent, but a cautionary tale about the real human cost behind the myths of the silver screen.